There's a moment in every relationship where one person makes a choice that defines how the dynamic will play out moving forward. It's usually subtle. It doesn't come with fireworks or big speeches. It could be as small as someone asking for your time at the last minute, and you either cancel your plans to make it happen, or you politely say, "I already have something scheduled." That one decision signals everything. It tells the other person whether or not they need to earn your time. It says whether or not you place value on your own life, your energy, and your self-respect. Here's the truth. Men may be attracted to you for a dozen different reasons. Your beauty, your sense of humor, your ambition, but if you want deep respect, it comes down to your emotional boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are not cold or rigid. They are an invitation for someone to treat you well because they see you treat yourself with care and intention. And men, good men, notice this immediately. When a woman doesn't allow her emotions to be tossed around based on whether or not he calls, whether or not he gives attention that day, whether or not the conversation went perfectly, she sends a powerful signal. She's not reactive. She's grounded. She can enjoy the relationship without being consumed by it. And that is extremely rare. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you've been texting someone for a few days, and then they suddenly go quiet. No message, no explanation. Now, a lot of people in that moment feel the sting of insecurity. Did I say something wrong? Are they bored of me? Should I double text just to check in? But the woman who commands respect doesn't spiral. She lets silence speak for itself. She doesn't overfunction to fill in the gap. If he reaches out again, she responds kindly but doesn't rush to reward the inconsistency. She may say something light like, "Hey, wasn't sure if you disappeared on me." And then she leans back again. That's not cold, that's dignified. Men don't respect what they can predict. When you teach a man that no matter what he does, you'll still be available, still be overly understanding, still be right, they're waiting. He doesn't see that as kindness. Over time, he sees it as passivity. He assumes your value isn't that high because someone with high value has options. And people with options don't tolerate confusion for long. Emotional boundaries mean you don't abandon yourself to stay connected to someone. You don't trade your peace of mind just to feel wanted for a moment. You can feel chemistry, desire, even longing, and still not ignore red flags. You can still hold your standards, because at the end of the day, you don't want someone who's just into you. You want someone who's aligned with you. And to attract that kind of person, you have to be courageous enough to walk away from the ones who aren't. This doesn't mean you become difficult. It doesn't mean you push people away. On the contrary, the most magnetic people are those who are kind and loving and know their line. They can flirt and laugh and enjoy intimacy, but they also know when something feels off. They know how to speak up without creating drama. And if something continues to feel misaligned, they don't protest endlessly. They simply remove themselves with grace. You might be surprised how quickly a man adjusts when he sees that you won't allow emotional laziness. Suddenly, he's showing up more intentionally. He's thinking before he speaks. He's not disappearing for 2 days without explanation because he knows that silence comes with consequences, not because you punish him, but because you quietly shift your energy away. And that shift is something men feel deeply. One of the most powerful phrases in dating is, "That doesn't work for me," not said in anger, not said in guilt, just said with clarity. If someone is constantly playing hot and cold, if they only call you late at night, if they expect emotional intimacy without giving consistency, "That doesn't work for me," is all you need. You're not asking them to change. You're simply stating your truth, and then you act accordingly. What makes a woman irresistible in the eyes of a grounded man is not her ability to cater to his every need, but her ability to stand in her own truth. To smile and say, "I like you, but I like me too." When you do that, you give a man the opportunity to rise to the level of the relationship you're offering. You give him the chance to be better, not because you demand it, but because your presence invites it. There's a myth that to be loved, you have to be agreeable. You have to always be flexible, always be forgiving, always be easy to be with. But think about it, how many people have you met who were easy, but never got the commitment they wanted? It's not about how accommodating you are, it's about how clearly you show someone what it means to be with you, and that begins with boundaries. In the end, men respect women who respect themselves, and self-respect is shown not in big dramatic exits or endless monologues about how you deserve better. It's shown in the quiet choices. It's shown when you leave the party on time, even when you're tempted to stay. It's shown when you don't send that third message just to fill the space. It's shown when you smile and say no without needing to justify yourself. It's shown when you give your time to people who are consistent and don't chase after those who aren't. Because when you know who you are, when you live with integrity, when your boundaries are clear but warm, you don't just attract love, you attract respect. And the kind of man who truly sees your value won't try to push past your lines, he'll honor them. He'll see them as a privilege, not a limitation. And that's when you'll know, this isn't just someone who likes you. This is someone who respects you, and that is the foundation for real, lasting love. In a world where everyone seems to be performing, filtering their words, curating their personalities, trying to say what they think others want to hear, authenticity becomes one of the rarest, most attractive traits someone can possess. And when a woman leads with authenticity instead of performance, she doesn't just stand out, she's unforgettable, not because she's louder or more impressive, but because she's real. She's someone a man can finally exhale around. He doesn't feel the pressure to impress or pretend. He feels seen. And that's a gift. Now, it's not always easy to be authentic. So many people fall into the trap of becoming a version of themselves that they think will be more likable, more desired, more safe. They talk about the things they should like. They laugh at jokes they don't find funny. They stay silent about things that matter because they don't want to ruin the moment. But what ends up happening, the connection they build isn't real, it's built on pretense. It's fragile, and over time it breaks. When a woman is grounded in who she is, she no longer performs for validation. She no longer needs to win someone over through charm alone. She doesn't need to oversell herself or shrink her opinions just to keep someone's interest. Instead, she shows up as she is, honest, imperfect, present, and that kind of presence is magnetic. Here's the paradox. People are afraid that if they show their true selves, they'll scare someone off. But what really drives people away is the moment. They realize the person in front of them isn't being real. You can feel it. You can feel when someone is editing themselves in real time. You can feel when someone's smiling to be agreeable, not because they're genuinely joyful. It's subtle, but it creates emotional distance. Think about the first few conversations you have with someone you're attracted to. Those moments are often filled with subtle tests. Will they accept this part of me? Will I be too much? Should I tone it down? But the woman who leans into truth instead of strategy doesn't ask those questions. If she's passionate about a topic, she talks about it, even if it's not traditionally feminine. If she doesn't agree with something he says, she disagrees respectfully, without apology. And if she's nervous, she admits it, instead of covering it up with false confidence. That honesty is refreshing. It tells a man, this is who I am. I'm not performing for your approval. I'm here to connect, not convince. And what happens is profound. He relaxes, he puts down his guard, he starts being honest too, and suddenly The connection stops being about who's impressing who and starts being about two humans meeting in truth. Authenticity also gives permission. When you show up without the need to be perfect, you give someone else the permission to do the same. And that's when real intimacy begins, not when everything goes smoothly, not when you're both trying to be your best selves, but when you see the unfiltered layers of each other and still choose to stay. The woman who's authentic knows her quirks are not flaws. She embraces her sense of humor, her awkward laugh, her strong opinions, her vulnerable heart. She doesn't apologize for being too deep or too emotional or too bold. She knows that the right man won't be overwhelmed by her intensity. He'll be drawn to it, because men are starving for something real. They're exhausted by the surface-level game. They don't need another perfect woman. They need one they can actually feel. Let's be clear, authenticity doesn't mean oversharing. It doesn't mean pouring your whole life story on the table in the first conversation. It means being in tune with what's true for you in the moment. If something excites you, you let it show. If something bothers you, you address it without fear. If you need space, you ask for it without guilt. You're not calculating your every move to manage someone else's perception. You're living in integrity, and integrity is attractive because when a man sees that your words match your actions, that your emotions are expressed without manipulation, that you don't need to impress him with stories or status, he feels safe, he feels inspired, and he starts to trust you in a way that goes far beyond physical attraction. Many women are told they have to be cool to keep a guy interested. Don't text too much. Don't act like you care. Don't reveal your expectations. But that advice teaches performance, not connection. The woman who commands deep respect doesn't hide her interest just to appear aloof. If she likes someone, she shows it. But she also knows she's okay if it doesn't work out. That balance of openness without desperation is what makes her so powerful. When you lead with performance, your worth becomes tied to results. You start to measure your value based on whether he calls back, whether the date went perfectly, whether he gives you validation. But when you lead with authenticity, your worth remains intact. No matter the outcome, you can walk away from something that isn't right without questioning your value, because you never compromised who you were to keep it. And here's the beauty of authenticity. It filters the wrong people out quickly. When you're being real, anyone who isn't aligned with your energy, your values, your spirit, they won't stick around, and that's a blessing. You won't waste time trying to convince someone to like a version of you that isn't even real. Instead, you attract the kind of man who sees you, really sees you, and chooses you because of, not in spite of, your honesty. In the end, the most beautiful relationships are not the ones built on perfection. They're built on presence, on truth, on shared reality. And that begins the moment you stop performing and start showing up as yourself, because the right man won't need you to impress him. He'll just need you to be you. And once you give yourself that permission, you'll never go back. There's a quiet power in a woman who knows what she wants and doesn't make a big show of it. She's not loud about her standards, but she lives by them. She doesn't put them on a checklist, doesn't need to warn someone she won't tolerate games or that she demands respect. She simply embodies those things, and in doing so, she teaches people how to treat her. A woman with high standards doesn't have to be aggressive. She doesn't lecture. She doesn't insult. She doesn't punish a man into behaving better. She understands that her value isn't proven through how much she endures or how many chances she gives. Her strength lies in her softness and her certainty. She knows what she brings to the table, and because of that, she will not beg anyone to stay seated. There's a massive difference between being demanding and having standards. One is rooted in fear, control, or the need to dominate. The other is rooted in self-respect and clarity. The first says, "Do this or I'll leave you." The second says, "This is how I live." If we're not aligned, I'm okay letting go. A man can feel that difference, and let me tell you, he will rise for a woman who doesn't shame him, but inspires him. She doesn't tear him down for not being enough. She calmly walks away from anything that isn't right. There's no drama, no begging, no emotional manipulation, just quiet, graceful withdrawal. That energy, that's unforgettable. It's easy to confuse kindness with weakness, but true kindness isn't about overextending, tolerating mistreatment, or pleasing people at your own expense. Kindness with boundaries is powerful. You can be sweet and still say no. You can be understanding and still walk away. You can be forgiving and still refuse to settle. One of the strongest statements a woman can make is not with words, but with behavior. Let's say a man cancels a date last minute with no real explanation. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to attack. You can simply say, I understand things come up, but I value my time, and last minute changes without communication don't work for me. That one sentence says everything. I'm not cruel. I'm not desperate. I just don't tolerate thoughtlessness. It's not about being rigid. Life happens. People make mistakes. But a woman with standards notices patterns. She doesn't ignore recurring signs just because she wants the connection to work. She pays attention to how she feels around someone, not just how they act when they're trying to impress her, but how consistent they are when comfort sets in. She asks, do I feel safe? Do I feel seen? Do I feel respected? If the answer is no, she doesn't blame him. She doesn't try to change him. She simply recognizes that she's not available for that kind of experience, and that, more than any lecture or emotional outburst, shifts the energy entirely, because the right man doesn't want to be scolded into stepping up. He wants to choose to rise, and when he sees that being with her means being intentional, he'll either elevate or quietly step aside. Men don't admire women who tolerate everything just to avoid conflict. They respect women who are clear about what they want, without being cruel when they don't get it. And here's the truth, clarity is calming. When you're around someone who knows themselves, who communicates directly but gently, it creates a safe space. That's the environment where real connection grows. The idea isn't to be cold. You don't need to build a fortress around your heart to show that you're strong. True strength is soft, it's warm, it's open, but discerning. A woman can smile, be loving, show interest, and still walk away the moment she feels unvalued. She doesn't play games. She doesn't give ultimatums. Her absence speaks louder than threats ever could. Sometimes people equate high standards with being high maintenance, but there's a big difference between expecting someone to fund your lifestyle and expecting someone to show up with integrity. The woman who asks for honesty, consistency, and emotional maturity is not asking for too much. She's asking for the bare minimum of a healthy relationship. And if someone sees that as too much, they're simply not ready. Having high standards isn't just about what you won't accept from others. It's about how you choose to live. It's how you speak to people, how you carry yourself. It's how you manage your own emotions without projecting them onto someone else. It's how you express your needs without blaming or shaming. That energy not only earns respect, it earns trust, and trust is the foundation of everything. When a man knows where he stands with you because you're not punishing him, not confusing him, not controlling him, he feels safe to be himself. He's not afraid of getting it wrong, because he knows that if something is wrong, you'll speak to it with grace. You'll let him know what's not working without humiliating him. It's important to remember that relationship isn't about winning power over the other person. It's not about proving who's more in control. It's about mutual respect. It's about two people holding themselves to a standard that supports growth, kindness, and consistency. And when a woman sets that tone from the start, when she brings high standards without harshness, she doesn't just attract love, she attracts healthy love. That's the difference between chemistry that fizzles out and a connection that deepens over time. Because while attraction might be sparked by looks or charm, long-term respect is built through how you live. And when a man sees that you live by your standards, not in a performative way, not to punish, but because you truly value yourself, he starts to value you even more. In the end, it's not about being the most beautiful woman in the room. It's about being the one who knows her worth and expresses it through grace, the one who stays open but not available to everything, the one who listens with compassion but never betrays her own intuition. That woman, she doesn't chase respect. She commands it, and not because she demands it loudly, but because her presence makes it clear. You're either going to meet her at her level, or you're going to watch her walk away peacefully, powerfully, and without regret. There's a quiet kind of confidence that doesn't need to be announced. It's not in dramatic speeches or grand ultimatums. It's in the subtle way a woman holds herself when she knows she's enough. That confidence becomes undeniable when she's willing to let go, when she doesn't beg, when she doesn't chase, when she doesn't punish, threaten, or plead. She simply steps back, not because she's angry, not because she wants attention, but because she understands something very powerful. If someone doesn't see her value, she won't waste time trying to convince them. This is what gracious detachment looks like. It's not cold, it's not indifferent, it's not playing it cool. It's warmth without desperation, it's presence without pressure. It's the ability to deeply care and still walk away if the care isn't mutual. And men respect this energy more than words can express. The idea that love means holding on no matter what has created so much confusion. Real love is not about clinging. It's not about sticking around while someone disrespects your time, your energy, or your emotions. It's not about waiting for potential to turn into reality. Love, when it's healthy, flows both ways. And if that flow stops, detachment is not cruelty, it's clarity. A woman who has mastered this doesn't attach her identity to being chosen. She doesn't feel like she's losing something when someone walks away. She might feel sad, yes. She might even miss the connection, but she knows that the right relationship doesn't require her to lose herself in the process of keeping it. And that knowledge allows her to let go with peace instead of panic. Men find this incredibly attractive, not because it's manipulative, but because it signals strength. It shows that her life is full, that her happiness isn't dependent on one person, that she values connection but not at the cost of her self-worth. And when a man sees that a woman is willing to walk away from anything that doesn't serve her, he starts showing up differently. He's more intentional, more consistent, because he knows that your presence is earned, not guaranteed. Let's be honest, so many people confuse silence with indifference, but gracious detachment isn't about ignoring someone to get them to come back. It's about stepping back because you're not being met where you stand, and that's not a tactic, it's a truth. You're not trying to make him realize anything, you're simply choosing your peace over chaos, and that choice, done with calm and class, creates more impact than any argument ever could. When a woman detaches with grace, she does it without anger. She doesn't lash out. She doesn't throw everything he did wrong in his face. She simply releases, and that's powerful, because while drama can create a temporary reaction, grace creates reflection. A man might brush off a fight, but he won't forget the woman who quietly walked away without burning the bridge. That silence stays with him. That dignity haunts him in the best way possible. People underestimate the effect of removing your energy from a space that doesn't honor it. You don't have to announce your departure. You don't have to slam the door. You just quietly stop showing up where you aren't being respected. And when you do that, something shifts. You're no longer proving your worth. You're preserving it. This doesn't mean you become emotionally unavailable. It means you become emotionally intelligent. You know how to show up fully when it's reciprocated, but you also know when to retreat, not to create distance, but to protect your heart. Because you've learned that real connection doesn't require convincing, and if someone needs to be reminded constantly of your value, they're not truly connected to it. A woman who embodies this lives with the mindset, if it's meant for me, I won't have to force it. She believes in alignment. She believes in effort, yes, but not in chasing, not in sacrificing her emotional health. Breadcrumbs of attention. She's willing to love, to give, to show up, but only in spaces that reflect her back to herself, spaces that feel safe, honest, and consistent. And here's what happens when you live this way. The people who don't match your energy fall away quickly, but the ones who are ready, truly ready, step forward with clarity. They don't want to lose the presence of someone who values herself so deeply, because they know that a woman who detaches with grace isn't playing games. She's just not available for confusion, and if they want to keep her, they'll have to meet her with the same level of intention. In the end, gracious detachment isn't about letting go because you're giving up. It's about letting go because you're growing up. You're choosing a new standard for yourself. You're choosing not to be in emotional limbo. You're choosing to say, I want something real. And I trust that if this isn't it, I'll still be okay. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Men deeply respect the woman who has the